Well, good morning, everyone. We are on another adventure today. We are in the bootheel of Missouri. We're going to be doing historical markers here in Mississippi County. And stay with us. I don't know what we're going to find here. This is a new direction for us going into this part of Missouri, but I'm excited about it. As long as the weather stays good, you know, anytime we're listening to the weather around our place, we always hear about tornadoes in the bootheel of Missouri, so I don't want that. But here we go. We're going to see what we can find and what there is. I know that whatever it is, it's going to be interesting. So stay tuned and stick along with us. All right, we are in Mississippi County, Missouri. We're here for this marker. It is the Missouri Sharecropper Strike of 1939. This is one wintry morning in January 1939. Residents of southeast Missouri woke to find 2,000 black and white sharecroppers alongside two state highways. With them were their families and the few meager belongings that they owned. The sharecroppers left the Missouri Bootheel cotton plantations where they lived and worked to stage a demonstration. They were protesting the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1938, a federal law from President Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. The act reduced production by paying farmers subsidies to not plant on part of their land and to kill off excess livestock. This was to reduce any surplus in crops and to increase the market value of crops. Plantation owners were supposed to share the subsidies with the sharecroppers living on and working the fields. However, plantation owners found a loophole in this policy and kept the subsidies owed to the sharecroppers by firing them and hiring day laborers instead. African-American minister Owen H. Whitfield, a sharecropper and vice president of the Southern Tenant Farmers Union, was dedicated to creating better conditions for farm workers. He planned and led the demonstration and convinced the sharecroppers that this demonstration would draw public attention to their plight. Whitfield told the sharecroppers, "Take your eyes out of the sky because someone is stealing your bread." Not all the plantation owners treated sharecroppers unjustly. There was one planter, Tad Snow, who had befriended Owen Whitfield, his wife Zella, and their large family. Like other sharecroppers, the Whitfields lived in desperately poor conditions despite backbreaking labor in the fields. When the protesters gathered along the frigid highways in early January, hungry and cold, the American Red Cross refused to help, calling the protest a man-made disaster. The sharecroppers remained on the roadsides, huddled in tents with little to keep them warm. The demonstration attracted national attention and embarrassed the state government after reporters and photographers from major newspapers traveled to the bootheel to follow the crisis. Soon, the governor sent state troopers to load the protesters into trucks and haul them away to different sites, a levee, swampland, a churchyard, and other places, all far out of public view. Lorenzo Green, a professor of history at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, went to visit the demonstrators. He described what he had seen to his classes. Students were so moved that they gave up their spring prom and donated the money to the sharecroppers. In St. Louis, activist Franny Cook also organized a committee of citizens to send relief to the protesters. The next summer, Cook's committee and the Lincoln University students donated money so the remaining sharecroppers, still led by Owen Whitfield, could buy a parcel of land, 93 acres near Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Several hundred sharecroppers, both black and white, moved to the land and built a community, which became known as Cropperville. The local sheriff warned them that he could not guarantee their safety in the face of hostility from the surrounding all-white community. Owen Whitfield could not stay with the demonstrators. Tad Snow hid Owen Whitfield in his barn for months until he could flee to St. Louis. In the end, no bloodshed occurred. Instead, the sharecroppers began tilling the land and building houses. Although there was much hunger and sickness, even death in the beginning, Cropperville slowly began to take shape with a school, a church, and community gardens and cemetery. Within a year, changes brought about by the protests were beginning to be visible. The governor held a conference in which Owen Whitfield, the planters, and officials talked about ways to help the sharecroppers. The federal government also got involved in the bootheel, agreeing to provide new forms of assistance. Through the Farm Security Administration, they created the Delmo Homes communities, 10 villages in the bootheel for sharecroppers who needed a place to live. But time went on and the world began to change. Cropperville residents moved away to fight in World War II or to find better jobs. Finally, Owen Whitfield also moved to take a new church position. 10 years after it had begun, Cropperville was all but deserted. Though Cropperville did not endure, the roadside demonstration was still a success. For us today, the story of the sharecroppers is an inspiring example of courage in the face of poverty and injustice. Not only did this protest lead to change on the state and national level, but the sharecroppers also managed to create a better life for themselves and their children. In the words of the song that they sang during the protest, many sharecroppers did finally find freedom, oh freedom after while. Here's some photos. This is the sharecroppers on the highway. This is Owen Whitfield. Owen, grandson of Owen Whitfield, with an original sharecropper. Photo. This is the barn that Tad Snow hid Owen Whitfield in. So Tad Snow's legacy of advocacy and compassion for the sharecroppers' labor movement continues to this day through his granddaughters, who donated the land for the highway memorial marker to honor the plight of the sharecroppers. More pictures. Over here, this is Tad Snow. There they are, moving along. This is Owen and Zella Whitfield. This is a DVD that's out about the sharecroppers. Oh, freedom after a while. Owen and Tad at book signing. And this is where from Cropperville, and tells you the location to take to get there, and to the cemetery and where the camp was. All right, we are out in rural Mississippi County, and we are here for this marker. This is it says a state divided, the Civil War in Missouri, the Battle of Belmont. Sign is not in real great condition, so if you're reading along with me, I apologize for that. You could do with a good cleaning and maybe even replacing, but there we go. North and west of this location, recently promoted Brigadier General Ulysses S. Grant commanded a federal army for the first time on November 7, 1861, in the Battle of Belmont. Grant's opponent, Major General Leonidas Polk, commanded the Confederate fortifications across the river at Columbus, Kentucky. So this is Polk. All right, now they were fighting for control of the Mississippi River. In Columbus, towering bluffs provided an ideal location for the placement of artillery batteries. Both sides eyed this location as being important to the control of the Mississippi River. To occupy Columbus, however, would violate Kentucky's declared neutrality in the war. On September 3, 1861, the Confederacy made the first move when Polk's army occupied the heights above Columbus. Grant countered by moving up the Ohio River from his base in Cairo, Illinois, and seizing Paducah, Kentucky on September 6, 1861. By November 1861, the Confederates had established an outpost at Belmont called Camp Johnston. Grant acted on false information that Polk planned to send troops there to reinforce Missouri's pro-Southern forces under General Sterling Price. Grant also worried that Polk's troops would interfere with a Union detachment sent to drive local Southern partisan commander M. Jeff Thompson from the state. It says, by the time of the Battle of Belmont, The Columbus fortifications bristled with 140 artillery pieces. The garrison consisted of 19,000 soldiers. Now we're coming up here for the Battle of Belmont. On the morning of November 7th, Grant's attack force of 3,114 men landed at Hunter's Point, 2 miles above Belmont. While this force attacked the Confederate camp, General C.F. Smith, commander at Paducah, fired on Columbus from the Kentucky side of the river to discourage Polk from reinforcing Camp Johnson. A mile march brought Grant's 2 brigades into contact with 4 Confederate infantry regiments under Brigadier General Gideon Pillow. This body of troops numbered roughly the same as Grant's, but was poorly deployed. After more than an hour of hard fighting, the Confederates ran short of ammunition and scattered. The Federals converged on the Confederate camp and drove its defenders towards the river. Once in the camp, Grant's troops abandoned attack to loot the camp and celebrate. This revelry was premature, for Polk had been observing the progress of the battle from Columbus. While his big guns kept Grant's gunboats at a distance, Polk sent 2 steamers across the river with reinforcements under Brigadier General Benjamin Cheatham to attack Grant's flank and prevent his force from retreating. Grant described the reaction of his men to the Confederate reinforcements. At first, some of the officers seemed to think that to be surrounded was to be placed in a hopeless position where there was nothing to do but surrender. But when I announced that we had cut our way in and could cut our way out just as well, it seemed a new revelation to officers and soldiers. Their retreat involved fierce fighting and many casualties, but Grant managed to get most of his army back to the Union transports. Grant was the last Federal to leave the field. So there's the steamboats, Tyler and Lexington. Along with 4 transport ships of troops, Grant brought 2 gunboats to Belmont to fire on the battery at Columbus. The aftermath. The Battle of Belmont lasted 6 hours. The Union took 607 casualties, 120 killed, 383 wounded, and 104 captured or missing. On the Confederate side, there were 641 casualties, 105 killed, 419 wounded, and 117 captured or missing. Polk won the Battle of Belmont. 4 months later, Grant won Forts Henry and Donelson on the Tennessee and Cumberland rivers. With the surrender of these forts to Grant, Polk had to abandon the fortifications at Columbus. While he received criticism for the battle, in his memoirs, Grant claimed, "The national troops acquired a confidence in themselves at Belmont that did not desert them through the war. At Belmont, Grant demonstrated his steadiness of judgment under fire and his ability to get out of tight spots, 2 qualities that were key to his greatness as a commander." And here, as I am still in rural Mississippi County, this is talking about geography of removal, and it talks about what they faced as the Cherokee moved through this area and what the geography was like. So if you would like to stop and learn more about that, please feel free. This marker is also here in rural Mississippi County, and it is talking about, of course, the Cherokee and the Trail of Tears, and never fails to sadden me whenever I see one of these markers. I love this country, I do. I am a die-hard patriotic American through and through. However, I am not unawares to the horrors and transgressions and just outright meanness that our forefathers brought with them. And this is, I think, along with slavery, was one of the worst. Well, I've been on, you've heard me talk about it before, but yeah, so they did pass this way through Belmont. The National Trail of Tears historic trail. And so if you want to pause to read that in total, there it is. Well, there you go, guys. Mississippi County, Missouri. I hope you learned stuff. I know I did. I really enjoyed learning about the Lewis and Clark trail here and what part that this played in the Civil War. That was really interesting. So there's much more to be discovered. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, do that. Give me a comment or a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. Catch up with you later.